Hey guys, welcome to another questions and discussion session. Just wanted to test out this new setup for the video. Hopefully it's more clear for you guys, as I've been getting a little bit of feedback from you guys about the clarity of the videos themselves. But I'm going to try to take this in all one take and go from there. During the course of the week last week, after our risk and safety conversation, I got a few questions from you guys, and I just wanted to address them because I think that at this particular point in time, it's most likely the best course of action to help you guys understand how you can address your whole risk tolerance journey and essentially do a little bit more risk management in that sense. So I got a line of questions from two individuals. One was specifically, isn't crypto dangerous? It really depends on your perspective for that particular question, but my response to that was, well, pretty much everything in life is a risk and everything could be dangerous. Something like walking home from school or driving to work. You know, heck, something as simple to some people as, getting a credit card or applying for a loan, getting married. All these things have underlying risks, right? So if we're talking about something as relatively important as money and investing, I think cryptocurrencies are definitely in that category as well. He asked it from the perspective of his friends investing in cryptocurrencies and losing their money a couple months ago, specifically around the time when Elon Musk was scheduled to show up on Saturday Night Live, the SNL broadcast, and that was around the time when cryptocurrency, namely Dogecoin, was touted as the new big thing in crypto. My response is around the concept of hype. If it was a hyped up project, and as an individual taking in this kind of information, if you acted on that kind of information solely because of the hype, then you may very well have been in that category of individuals that lost out on their investment. So I remember watching the charts and also monitoring what was going on in the Saturday Night Live broadcast, and literally speaking, Dogecoin had hit its highest of I think about 60 something cents USD, and I think shortly after that broadcast was completed or done, it just dropped. And for anybody that may have invested in Doge thinking that that broadcast would have helped in appreciating the value of that investment, they were disappointed. And from my perspective, I think that's because very little research was conducted by these individuals, and they just followed the hype train. So that's why the term FOMO is more important here, which is a fear of missing out. If you don't do your research and you aren't brought to a certain level of conviction regarding your own investment, you will very well fall victim to pretty much anything that anyone says is the new thing or the it thing to pay attention to. You will lose money on it. So you ought to come to a certain level of conviction. You have to make sure that your strategy with respect to your investments are sound so that you don't fall victim. If you're going to invest in something and you know it's going to go up, make sure that you're setting a stop loss for in case it drops. You're essentially, and I challenge you all to go to Investopedia for these terms. If you find that there's something that we mention in these discussions that isn't obvious to you, make sure to research that at Investopedia, especially when it comes to investment stuff. But yeah, just set a stop loss in place and make sure that you prevent yourself from losing money in case it drops. So hypothetically speaking, if I had invested in Dogecoin at 30 cents and it got to 60 cents, I'll put a stop loss at 55 so that essentially I'm able to recoup some little bit of profit before it drops below that 55 cent mark, for instance. And that's Dogecoin. But personally, I wouldn't invest in Dogecoin because it doesn't have the long-term utility I'm looking for as an investor in the cryptocurrency space, right? So I would look into things like Ethereum because that has higher implications of utility. All right, so as I was saying before I got interrupted by the puppy, I would invest in Ethereum because it has long-term implications for utility. For instance, if you're into art as an artist, if you wanted to actually engage or participate in the NFT craze, that's kind of future-proofing your work in a way that will give you revenue beyond just selling it on an online store, or maybe showing up at a farmer's market with your actual physical copies of your art. Ethereum gives you that opportunity, or has at least given a lot of creators the opportunity to make money in the digital space in ways that something like Doge, unless developers figure out a way to make it work more, something like Doge won't give you that level of utility. At the same time too, Doge in itself, yes, is and was created to serve the needs of individuals that believed in its message. Screw the status quo, let's make something of our own that is useful to us. But anyway, I may be completely wrong with that particular cryptocurrency as time progresses, but I personally don't see that as a benefit in terms of investing. And in our previous discussion, I did mention that you want to make sure that you're looking into projects that actually have long-term use case utility. And there are plenty of projects that are successful in this regard. Like there's Cardano, there's XRP's particular use cases to improve cross-border payments. And if you visit our Future Trend Today playlist on the must-watch items, you'll be able to see a few videos that argue the benefits of that particular project. But then again, these are all you have to do your research and make sure that you come to a level of conviction for yourself, as opposed to just consuming information that other people curate to you. Because, for instance, because I'm not necessarily the beacon of everything right in crypto, I'm also learning, and we're very early in this stage of development for cryptocurrencies in general, to the point that we're still waiting on regulations to make sure that consumers in the retail space is protected, similar to how banks protect regular everyday individuals and their particular ways that they use. But there is so much more that cryptocurrencies offer outside of just a transfer of money or wealth, right? So technology evolves literally every day. So at this rate, I'm sure after you are even watching this, there's probably been some life-changing breakthrough with respect to cryptocurrency. So I wouldn't necessarily pin it on just the 3 examples that I just gave you right now. There are plenty more that I am also researching to make sure that I feel good about. You just also want to make sure that you are, again, not falling for the hype. The friend of mine that sent me the question about aren't cryptocurrencies dangerous? His question was prefaced based on the experience of his friends that didn't take the time to research. And I think I was able to deduce in my response to him that Dogecoin was the investment that they'd made. And again, the reason that happened, or the reason they weren't able to make the best of their investment, was because they followed hype. So you don't want to invest in projects that aren't necessarily going anywhere, or that don't have any utility. So that's what I have to say about that. I had another question from you guys that touched on another item here. This individual mentioned or asked, how much should I save every month? And what is the minimum amount I could invest? Bonus question, where could I start investing? I'll answer it from my perspective so that you have a better idea as to what steps I took. But again, you might want to do your own research to find out what works best in your jurisdiction or in your location. That way you're not crossing a certain threshold of risk yourself, right? So some exchanges that you might want to set up accounts on are Coinbase, depending on if it's actually available in your jurisdiction. There's also Uphold. There's another exchange called BitTrue. Binance is one, but I mean, at this rate, my perspective on Binance is they're going through a lot of changes with respect to their overall policy. So, and also there's a little bit of uncertainty with regards to how they're actually implementing, or how their policy affects us as retail investors. So there may be some hesitation there for me, but it depends. If it's available where you are, try it out by all means. For Canadians, there's another one, depending on what kind of asset you're trying to invest in. There's another one you may want to set up an account on, which is Coinfield. I think they also kind of had a subsidiary called Sologenics, but you may want to do your research on whether it is available again in your jurisdiction. So to answer the question of what is the minimum amount I could invest or that I should be saving each month, you want to evaluate it based on how much income you are actually generating every month. and also subtracting your necessities, your actual expenses that you need to keep, to keep things running smoothly in your life. So you don't want to overinvest and go all in something, because at the end of the day, if you're starting, you want to again make incremental investments on a scheduled basis so that you yourself feel comfortable with that process, because you may very well screw yourself over if you rush in this process at all. Like, you just want to make sure that you're taking your time and you're comfortable with it. So one percentage that I use as a rule of thumb was to at least work towards investing about 20%. This is what I did for my personal. So you have to figure that out for yourself. I invested about 20%, give or take, depending on the month, in cryptocurrencies or projects that I felt were long-term wins for me. So I did my research over the course of about 3 years, and in that time frame, I would, commit a little bit of my income every month to these projects, and that's something that I did religiously and studied almost every day. You can ask my wife. I kind of like absorb this stuff daily. So, but you want to assess that for yourself. If 10% works, if 5% works, if 1% works, then that's cool. If you're able to afford more, that's absolutely fine too. But you have to make sure that you are not investing more than you can afford to lose, because as soon as you buy, the main focus should be to leave it alone and forget about it. Ideally, you just want to continue investing with a conviction that, no one can necessarily shake, because there are facts behind it. The partnerships that are involved with that project are legitimate. The individuals or the employees of that particular company that are behind the project are legitimate themselves. Like, they're in the open, they're transparent. It builds confidence that way. And if you have a good idea as to where that project is going, you yourself will be able to sleep well at night. So again, you don't want to make any investments that you necessarily feel emotionally tied to. You just want to try it out and build your confidence by making incremental investments on a fairly long-term basis, and go from there. He mentioned in this question here, what is the minimum amount I could invest? It depends on for that question, it depends on your the exchange that you've set up an account for, or set up an account on, or signed up for an account on. That particular sum, depending on when you first start, and depending on the volume of transactions you make on these exchanges, they kind of increase your ability to invest more. So for instance, you may start with $100 a week. This is a hypothetical. And then as you pass a few months, that threshold of $100 may increase to $1,500. So I'm not necessarily sure what the thresholds are right now, but you again want to sign up to as many legitimate exchanges as possible that have a good track record, that have good ratings, and make sure that you are making sure that you flushed out your overall investment strategy in a way that will translate in an increase of investment. So it really comes down to how far or how long you've been with a particular exchange. That will determine how much you can invest. But yeah, I hope that answers those questions. Another element of risk that I think is necessary that I believe is necessary to take away with, for you to take away with right now, is risk management, in the sense of just making sure that your devices aren't at risk of hacking. You want to consider investing in a VPN, that's a virtual private network, which kind of shields you shields your device while you are surfing the internet. And you also want to make sure that you limit the amount of risky websites that you may or may not surf on. You don't want to expose your device that you do your investments on to you don't want to have that compromised. So a VPN would help. Make sure that you're cautious of the sites that you're visiting. Don't download movies. Don't go download, what is this bootleg? Don't LimeWire. Like back in the days, I'm sure you guys are familiar if you're watching this. In the days of LimeWire, we would download free songs and movies, and you just want to make sure that you're not putting your device at risk, and that should at least take you further in that respect. And at the same time too, Another element that I would also advise, if I was to advise you, if we were to have a casual conversation, I would advise you directly to get cold storage. If you're investing in cryptocurrencies, you want to make sure that you take those funds off of the online exchange in the safest manner possible. It's a kind of another layer of protection for your investment, and it doesn't put your funds at risk of compromisation by any hackers or pretty much anyone that may be after you. You just want to make sure that you're protecting your funds as best as possible, because again, there's no one that you can call like a bank to shield those funds or to prevent them from being compromised by anybody who that may target you. So cold storage, one example of that is a ledger. You can find a link in the description of my video here to to that direct vendor, and that is, they sometimes run really nice sales, but like at this rate, the prices are relatively affordable, and it is also something that I believe is worth investing in for the long-term protection of your funds while regulatory clarity is still trying to sort itself out, especially with all the Senate talk that's happening in the United States. I'll look into that, and the whole conversation of utility is something I believe we all need to really have a better understanding of as time progresses. So just go ahead and take a look at the playlist of must-watch videos in my on the channel, and you should be able to find something or quite a few videos that would help you develop your understanding of that concept of utility. So again, I'm still learning, but if you have any questions at all, feel free to message or DM us, comment below. Contact us on Facebook, Instagram, any of the platforms that are linked in this video, and I'll be more than happy to engage and have some fruitful discussion around this topic. You can also contact or follow me on Twitter at FutureTrendToday or FutureTrendLou, and we can take things from there. But either way, I hope you gained a lot of value from this discussion, and I look forward to your questions, and we'll come up with some responses tomorrow. So have a good one, and talk to you soon.
Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos.